Hi, my name is Brian Riggs, and in this video lesson, we're going to talk about bringing out the melody in an arpeggio texture. We're going to talk about the study in B minor by Fernando, and we're going to use three concepts to make the melody really sing out. The first concept is isolating the melody. Then second, we'll talk about using the right hand to play the melody at a slightly higher dynamic level. And then we'll talk about holding the notes for their full value and really phrasing them so the melody sings out and your performance can really shine. So let me play the first 8 measures of the study in B minor, and then we'll talk about these three concepts. We'll stop there at measure 9. So the first thing we're going to do is isolate the melody. Now, these notes are doing double duty because most of the time there's only one note being played. However, that note, often on beats 1 and 3 of this 3/4 piece, are serving as both notes of the arpeggio, but they're also serving as melody notes. So in a lot of editions, the note has an upstem to indicate that it's a higher voice. So if we play just the melody, it's a really good exercise. So if I start at measure 1 and do the first 4 measures, we would start on D, so measure 2, measure 5, keep going to 6. So it's simple, but it's really effective. This piece is really popular for a reason, because it has such a nice, haunting, memorable melody. It's really easy for the listener to grab their ear onto it and really enjoy it. So we want to make the most of that. So I would really recommend practicing by starting by isolating the melody, because all of the different technical and fingering decisions that you have to make later on need to really serve the melody, because it's tempting to look at it as just an arpeggio and just kind of back and forth on a chord. And a lot of people play this piece, they play it in that way where it's just kind of plodding, where every note is sort of the same, and you might not necessarily realize that, oh, there's actually a melody that should be singing out above the arpeggio texture. Okay, the second concept we'll talk about is using the right hand to play everything at a slightly higher dynamic level. Typically, I play this piece with just P, I, and M, and I'm mostly using the middle finger for the melody note. Some players prefer to go to the high E string and use the ring finger. That's totally fine. Whether you use your ring finger for the high E string notes or if you use your middle finger for all the notes, either way, we want to have that dynamic be a little bit louder on the melody note. So I play the D, and then this note on the B, the very last note of the first measure, it's a little softer, and this is louder again. That's a really important thing to develop as a classical guitarist. The guitar is capable of such nuance and such subtlety, and a lot of times we don't get the most that we can get out of it, myself included, because we don't pay attention to those musical things to try to really hear the melody. It's louder. In this kind of music, in this type of texture, you have to have the melody be a higher level than the accompaniment. There's different types of music, different styles of music, especially a lot of modern composers where it's not as tonal. That might not be the case. You might want to have all the notes be equal. But for this type of music, this type of texture, and this kind of style, I think it makes a lot of sense to have the melody sing out above the accompaniment. So we want to press a little bit harder with the right hand finger, because that's of course what makes the sound. The last thing I'll say is that you can, about this concept, is you want the right hand to have more weight on the melody notes. You can use a rest stroke. I'm using a light rest stroke here. You can use a rest stroke or a free stroke. I think it's fine either way. Either way, you want to feel a lot of weight on the string of having your finger, if you're using your middle finger or your ring finger. I'm using my middle finger for all of the notes. When I go to the high E string, I like to use my middle finger still, just so it stays consistent. But we want more weight on that note regardless of whether you use a rest stroke or a free stroke. If you do use a rest stroke, you don't want to do it too much, of course, because that ruins the beautiful melody. Okay, and the third concept we'll talk about is holding the notes for their full value and starting to phrase them. Because once again, as I was saying, with that, performances become somewhat plodding, is it seems like every 8th note is just kind of like... And it's nice, the music is so nice that it still kind of works, it's still kind of nice to listen to. But if we can start to think of the longer phrases, because if you were having a wind instrument or a violin, for example, a bowed instrument. They would very actively hold all of those long notes and connect them to beat 3. And we can't do exactly the same thing on the guitar, of course, because as soon as we pluck a note, the note starts to die out, starts to decay immediately. But we can start to think of have that idea of the longer phrase, and that's like, once again, kind of tying it back to the first concept. We're always going to be thinking about the melody, and all the other decisions that we make are going to be served by the melody. So we can start to hold that note, make sure we don't let this note die out. Because once again, a violinist or a wind instrument player, they would very actively have to keep the sound going. They would physically have to keep the sound going, and they're very aware of that. Whereas on the guitar, the note kind of dies out, so it's easy to be thinking about the next accompaniment notes that we're playing, because we also have to play our own accompaniment part. Holding all these notes, measure 5, hold that C sharp to the next C sharp. So it's not, you don't want to do like something like this where you have a reaction to playing the next note and then you let go of the C sharp and you lose that beautiful half note. So you can see as we phrase through, we're holding the notes for their full value. Now we phrase through to measure 7, E, more tension on that E sharp, which I know, and then resolution to the F sharp, and then we start the phrase over nice and soft. So now it makes a lot more sense musically to be coming and going as opposed to just plodding along. See if you can go through the entire piece that way, and I think your performance will really come alive. So thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments if there are any pieces or any techniques that you want to see covered in these videos, and I'll see you next time.